Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In Surah Baqarah verse 19, Allah says, أَوْ كَسَيِّبٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ فِيهِ ظُلُمَاتٌ وَرَعْدٌ وَبَرْقٌ يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِم مِّنَ الصَّوَاعِقِ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ وَاللَّهُ مُحِيطٌ بِالْكَافِرِينَ. And the translation of this verse is, or it is like a rainstorm from the sky, within which is darkness, thunder, and lightning. They put their fingers in their ears against the thunderclaps in fear of death. But Allah is encompassing all of the disbelievers. Now, the question that I want to address in this episode is, why are so many people terrified of death to the extent that they live in fear? They read the Quran, they do their prayers, but they have no sukoon in their heart. They receive many blessings from Allah, and they have moments of ease, which they know are coming from the Ar-Rahman, who is the most merciful and loving. Yet, instead of being grateful, they still live in fear. Instead of enjoying the moments of happiness that Allah has given them, they are terrified that their life might end. Interestingly, they know that death is inevitable, and they know that fearing death to the extent that you cannot function normally is irrational, but they cannot stop it. It's like a student who knows for sure that his teacher will give him a surprise test. He knows it's coming, but he isn't sure when. So instead of spending every day studying to prepare himself for the exam, he spends every day worrying in fear of the surprise test. So naturally, when the day of the surprise test comes, he fails, because instead of preparing for it, which he knew he should have done, he wasted his time fearing it. This is precisely what Allah is explaining in this verse and in the verse after this, when He is referring to the munafiqs. During a period of lightning, such people can see in the dark, so they start to walk. But as soon as there is darkness again, they stop. When they hear the thunder, they put their fingers in their ears, terrified of death. Now, what does this analogy actually mean? Lightning comes from the sky, and it comes in brief moments. So for a while, there will be light, and then there will be darkness again. This is analogous to saying that there are brief moments where Allah will grant ease to His slave, and this will be followed by moments of test and hardship. So the believer walks when there is light, but he stands still when there is a moment of hardship. But whether he is walking slowly or whether he is standing still, throughout the journey, he spends it in the fear of death. And why is that? Because after lightning, he knows what's coming. He knows there is going to be darkness, and he knows that there's going to be a loud noise, which is absolutely terrifying, so terrifying that he puts his fingers in his ears. So what does this mean? It means during moments of ease even, the believer knows that a period of hardship is coming. And the fear of death cripples him so much that even during moments of ease, he is terrified. At no point does he feel shukr or sukoon in his heart. At no point does he enjoy the moment and just be happy. It's like, imagine if there is a person who is lost in the forest in the dark, and now there is lightning. So the light gives him direction, but he's not thankful. He's not grateful to Allah that there is lightning and light is giving him direction. On the contrary, he spends the entire time in the fear of death, knowing that after light, there is going to be dark and there's going to be thunder. So during those moments where there is light, he spends that moment in fear. And of course, once the light does go and there is darkness, again he spends that time in fear. So practically in the entire journey, he's wasted it just in the fear of death. But we could also ask this question, that if these verses are talking about the munafiqeen, then why does Allah refer to them as kafirs in this verse? The reason is because being a kafir and practicing kufr does not just mean you are covering up the truth, it also means that you are being ungrateful. To be ungrateful to Allah for His favors is also kufr. Instead of thanking Allah for the gifts that you have been given, thanking Allah for the moments of happiness that He gives you, and using that period of ease to gain strength and wisdom so you can prepare for the eventual upcoming tests and hardship, you spend every day in the fear of death. But then, of course, we can ask the ultimate question, why is there so much fear of death? What is there to fear? There will always be a fear of death when you become too attached to things in dunya and you fear being separated from them. So you start having separation anxiety. You want to be very close to the people who you love, and you want to be very attached to the things in dunya that you are silently worshipping, because you're terrified that one day you'll die and you will have to leave all these things behind. And at times what starts to happen is you start to feel as if you are controlling everything and you are looking after everyone. So the thought of death terrifies you, because you start to wonder, well, what will happen to my assets, my possessions, my children, my family after my death? And at that moment you forget that risk and sustenance was never in your hands. You were never the one who was actually looking after your family. You were never the one providing for them. It was always Allah, and Allah never dies. At times there can also be this severe fear of Allah's azab, of Allah's punishment, to the extent that even though we have committed sins and we have done tawbah, we don't believe in Allah's mercy. We forget that Allah is Ar-Rahman and He can forgive anything and everything. Yet we are constantly fearing the ultimate punishment, constantly fearing Jahannam, and forgetting about Allah's mercy. But most importantly, in these verses, Allah says that He could make such people deaf, mute and blind, but He's not. Meaning that such people still have time to fix themselves, to learn to enjoy the moments of ease Allah has given them, to learn about Allah's rahmat and wisdom, to learn that life is a jihad, so get ready to fight, to learn to trust the Almighty and learn about Allah's incredible mercy. If you know a battle is coming in which the Creator of all is there by your side to help you win, but instead of preparing for that battle, you live in the fear of death, can you ever win such a battle? And when you lose it, whose fault is it going to be? Assalamu alaikum.